Up, man? I'm gonna talk about my Chicago Cubs. I was gonna do a live a couple days ago when they got eliminated from the wild card by the Colorado Rockies, but I didn't want to go on it. I wanted to take it all in, regroup, and let everything settle in, let the dust settle, and then I wanted to do it live, so I decided to do it right now. But I thought the Cubs, in my opinion, they dropped the ball this year. Of course, they dropped the ball. The Cubs had so much talent and they still have so much young talent on the team. They won 95 games, got to the wild card. We all know that's a one game, winner takes all. Anybody can win in the wild card. That's why when you get into a wild card situation, it's 50-50. It doesn't matter if you think you got the better team. When you go up against that other team, it's whoever's pitcher is hot on that day. Now, both teams had a hot pitcher. The Cubs, they put out their ace, and the Colorado Rockies went with a young kid. That's a pretty good pitcher, and I thought it was a great duel. You know what I'm saying? So when the Rockies struck first, I thought, okay, this is gonna put a lot of pressure on the Cubs because the Cubs are not hitting. I was hoping the Cubs can come out and put a couple of runs on the board early, and then I would have been comfortable with their bats being able to carry them, you know, being able to, well, them being able to settle down and get into a good rhythm. I thought if the Cubs scored early, I thought that they could have won a game and scored more runs and scored a whole lot of runs. But when the Colorado Rockies scored first off of John Lester, it seemed like when they got that one run, I was saying to myself like, man, the way the Cubs was hitting, because remember they only had one run versus the Brewers. You know what I'm saying? I believe they had one. Did they have one run versus the Cardinals in that last game versus the Cardinals when they could have swept the Cardinals? I think they only had one or two runs or something like that. I didn't see the Brewers game, but I did see the Colorado Rockies game, and I was thinking to myself like, man, shoot, this may be enough to win a game. The one run may be enough to win a game, and with the Cubs lineup, it shouldn't. To me, it shouldn't come that. It shouldn't come to that. It shouldn't even come close to that because the Cubs should be able, with the lineup they have, they should be able to average at least 6 runs a game. At least. They got Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Cal Schwarber. They have hitters. They got Jason Hayward. He played better this year than he played last year, and they got some other guys. They got Ian Happ. You know what I'm saying? They got Wilson Contreras. They got Amara. They have so many good, to me, hitters, and that they should at least average 6 runs a game. No lower than five. And it's astounding that I seen some numbers that the Cubs only scored one run in almost 40 games this year. They only scored one run. I mean, they had 40 games, or close to that number, 40 games, somewhere up in there like 37, 38 games, where they only scored one run with this lineup. That's astounding. That's that's astounding. But this is the era of the free. This is the free swinging era of baseball. Now, I started watching baseball in the early '90s. Kind of like I'm talking about. Well, I was watching it with a keen eye around about '94, '95. I was listening to Harry Carey on the radio. With some older people, being around older people, and they listen to the radio, and they listen to. They really didn't look at television. They would listen to the radio, and they would have the Cubs game on the radio, in like the mid '80s. I running around the house, you listen to Harry Carey on the radio, but back then players had to hit for average. Like I always say this about baseball. Baseball by nature, by nature, is a pitcher's. Is the advantages to the pitcher. Because the best baseball player, he's going to hit about 300, 295, 300. You having a great year hitting 350. You having an awesome historic year, you hitting 400. But just think about it. At 100%, and you only hitting 400, 400. You only hitting 40%, or you hitting 30%. In any other sport, that's bad. If you if you're an NBA player and you shooting 40%, 30%, that is horrible. That is well, 40% is not horrible, but 40% is bad. So the advantage is to the pitcher because the pitcher only need three strikes to get you out. You need to either hit the ball, get the ball in play, and or you need to get four balls to get to get on base. And then when you hit the ball, you have to be able to get it past third baseman, first baseman, shortstop, second baseman, right field, left field, and center fielder. So your ball have to find some type of gap to land. So baseball has always been about pitching, always. That's why you have to teach your hitters to hit to opposite field, hit for average. Everybody on the team need to know how to bunt correctly in the right situation. Every batter needs to know how to hit in the gaps. That's why I said when look, you cannot get a hitting coach. I know everybody complaining about the Cubs hitting coach, right? But you cannot get a hitting coach in the major leagues to teach guys who have been free swinging probably since high school because a lot of these guys are talented and they probably was hitting a lot of home runs, but the averages probably they probably were hitting like 250, 245, something like that in high school and college. And you expect them to get in the minor leagues, and then from the minor leagues you expect them to come up and be able to hit for average. That's not how it goes. Now, a major league team has no, they can't control players when they're in high school. So the most they can do is draft guys that hit for average. Like, okay, it's good to for the ball to go out the ballpark, but you have to be able to hit for average when you get to the majors. You just have to because the pitching is too good. The pitching is too good, and the pitching and I mean in baseball, the advantage is to the pitcher. So you have to be able to hit for average, 300 or better, 295, 290. You know what I'm saying? So if you're hitting 260, 265, you better be hitting 40, 45 home runs a year to make up for you not hitting for average, a good average. And that's the only way that validates you not being able to hit for average if you're hitting 40, 45 home runs a year. Okay. But most guys is not going to do that. If you can hit 300 and hit 30 home runs or hit 320, hit 25 home runs, I'll take that over a guy that hits 35 home runs and only hitting 260, 255, 250. That's not acceptable because when you get into the playoffs, you're going to have to face the best pitching. You're going to have to face the top end of the bullpen, the best pitchers out of the bullpen. And I already told you, the advantage is to the pitcher. So what you think is gonna happen to the Cubs when they get in the postseason? The same thing that was if you think it was happening to them in a regular season if they weren't scoring a lot of runs, when you get to the postseason, it's not gonna get any better. And like I said, I didn't watch the Cubs all year because I watched the Cubs the last two and a half months. You know what I'm saying? I started watching the Cubs when they were like 6 games up. And before then, they were constantly being like 5 games up. They were holding out. I would look at the standings here and there, look at some games here and there, listen about the Cubs early in the season. And I just expected them to make the playoffs. It never passed my mind that the Cubs weren't gonna make the playoffs because since 2015, the Cubs have made the playoffs. So I just thought they're gonna make the playoffs. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna sit around and look at 62 games and get mad after every loss because baseball is a long season. 162 games. It's a long season, and I can't sit there and get mad over every game that you know what I'm saying that you lose. So I looked at the last two and a half, and then you start getting a little nervous the last month and a half because you start seeing the league slip. And then I'm like, okay, the Cubs, okay, it's the last month, the last 20 some games. The Cubs gonna put it together. They're gonna win a division. And then you see Milwaukee, you see the Cardinals start creeping up, creeping up, creeping up because the Cubs are not hitting. They're not hitting. The Cubs should have won this division by 10 games, at least 10 games. With all the talent that the Cubs had and all the problems that the Cubs for all the problems the Cubs went through with injury, with not hitting well, they still won 95 games. So that tells you right there, they won 95 games just off talent alone. Now, if that talent was fully realized, they should have ran away with the division. And I just thought the Cubs dropped the ball, man. Now, a lot of people are calling for Joe Madden to lose his job. Why in the heck should Joe Madden lose his job? He wasn't out there swinging bats. Now, he's a manager. See, like baseball, the manager, yes, he's responsible for the pitching staff and the lineup, the everyday lineup. So he has a talented lineup to work with as far as hitting is concerned. So, yes, he was putting the hitters in there. Now, the Cubs did not have a traditional leadoff man. They throughout the season they were mixing and matching. So that could have been some of the problem why they didn't score a lot of runs because your leadoff man usually set the tempo for the baseball game. The leadoff man usually sets the tempo. He usually the guy that hits for average. He's usually a guy that can get on and steal bases. So that could have been some of their problems, but that wasn't all of the problems. They still had too many good hitters on this team not to score more than one run a game. I mean, not to act now in their wins they averaged 6 runs a game. In their losses, I think they had 36 to 40 games where they only scored 1 run, which is that's mind boggling right there. And that's like down there with the Baltimore Orioles, who was what, the worst team or one of the worst teams in baseball. So it's not Joe Madden's fault that the guys could not hit the baseball. In my opinion, Joe Madden changed the culture. Now, yeah, the Cubs had success here and there in the '60s, here and there in the '70s, here and there in the '80s, here and there in the '90s, here and there in the early 2000s. But the Cubs were always a team that we all said as Cubs fans, man, okay, let's wait till next year. Let's wait and see what they can do next year. Let's wait and see what they can do next year. It was always wait till next year. Now, Dusty Baker did have that team with Sammy Sosa, Moises Alou, when they had Kerry Wood and Zebrano, and they had Mark Pryor. Yeah, we were one game away from going to the World Series. We blew it versus the Florida Marlins. We can all blame it on Bartman and all that. But what people don't realize is after that play, what's the name he made an error and opened up the floodgates. So, yeah, we could blame it on Bartman and all we want, but, the Cubs didn't get it done. But Joe Madden changed it, along with Theo Epstein, who came from Boston, who he stopped the drought at Boston. And then he came to the Cubs and did the same thing, stopped the 100 and something year drought that the Cubs had from not winning the World Series. So, yeah, it's calls about people saying Theo Epstein probably should lose his job because he made a couple bad decisions on that pitcher that he got, Udarnis. He made a couple, bad moves. But hey, you're not gonna make every move is not gonna be good. Every move is not gonna be perfect. But he did bring in Cole Hamels, and he did bring in Murphy. Murphy did good for a little while, then he fell off. Hamill stayed steady, and he even pitched well in the wild card game. He pitched very well in the wild card game. So he did good. So it's not mess. It's not the mess ups that you do, as Theo S being. It's what you do after you make a bad decision. And after he made that bad decision, the couple of them bad decisions that he made, he kind of made up for them. And that's, to me, that shows that he can he can recalibrate, and then he can try to fix it. What he, what the bad decision that he didn't make. He didn't just let it just stand there as a bad decision. He went out there and did something about it. So to me, Theo Esping should have a job with the Cubs as long as, probably as long as he almost won't. Because like I said, we were the lovable losers. The Cubs were the happiest team to me. Not the happiest team. I'm talking about the fan base were the happiest fan base, even when the Cubs wasn't winning. Even when the Cubs wasn't winning, the Cubs sold out that stadium. Even when they wasn't winning. So Theo Esping, he came in and changed the culture. John Madden changed the culture as a manager on the team, the baseball team. Having guys, settle down. See, a manager is different between any other coach in football and basketball. His job is to manage. Now, to me, he did a great job managing young players, because you got to realize the Cubs have a lot of young guys, a lot of guys 24, 25, 23 years old, 26 years old, especially their core. So he did a great job, to me, managing those guys. So to me, John Madden should have a 10-year contract, in my opinion. They should get that man a long contract, because he deserves it. He deserves the long contract. He has. Do you know how hard it is to change a culture of being known as losing to then turn around all, like I said, the Cubs have sporadic years here and there, especially the Sammy Sosa era, where they had a lot of success. They had some success in the playoffs, but they never won the World Series. They had some success, so I'm not going to say the Cubs was losing every year in them 100 years, but they were not winning on the level that they've been winning on the last 3 years, 4 years. It just has not been happening. And Joe Madden and Theo Esping are responsible for the Cubs becoming winners. So when you say, "Oh, fire Madden because of this," or he made a bad choice when he put in Hayward and didn't put in Kyle Schwarber, okay, like me, bases loaded. Kyle Schwarber, I understand the analytics, and to me, the analytics, you have to have a point to where you have to say, okay, I can't go by the analytics. I have to go by what my gut tells me. And in that situation, my gut tells me put Schwarber up there, because even though he has not had a lot of success versus that pitcher, this is a wild card game, a one-run game. He has a chance with one swing to just bust the game open. That pitcher on the mound, he probably was nervous. He probably would have been more nervous facing Kyle Schwarber, because Kyle Schwarber, with one hit of the bat, one good hit, he could take that thing out the park. So sometimes you have to say, forget the analytics. I'm gonna go with my gut. My gut says I'm gonna put this young man up there. He's a home run hitter. This is a spot where we need the game to be bust wide open, and let it go from there. But look, he went to the analytics. The analytics told him that Kyle Schwarber doesn't do good versus that pitcher. That Hayward does much better versus that pitcher. He put Hayward up there. But like I was listening to Chicago sports radio, they were saying, yeah, Hayward may hit better against him, but to their credit, they did say Hayward has not hit good in the postseason. He just haven't. Even the year they won the World Series, Hayward was not hitting good in the postseason. I know he had that big hit in the World Series in that clinching game, but up until then, he was not hitting good, man. He has not really been. he has not hit as well as expected since he's been in the Cubs uniform. Now his glove is good in the outfield, but his bat has not been that good, man. You got Kyle Schwarber. He's the home run man. They call him his nickname what the Beirut of the Cubs. You got to put him up in there in that spot. But we can always second guess because if Hayward would have hit a double and then the Cubs would have scored a couple runs and Cubs win the game, ain't nobody's questioning it. It's easy to question. It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback and second guess all the decisions that the coach and managers make, after the fact. But we didn't have to make that decision. We didn't have to make that decision when Joe Madden made the decision. That's all I'm saying. But looking at free agents now, the Cubs, they need a leadoff hitter. They need a bona fide leadoff hitter. Not just any leadoff hitter. They need a leadoff hitter that can hit for average and can get on base, man. With a good on base percentage, man. Really. Because that sets the tone. Because you have guys like, see, now, I'm not going to say that Chris Bryant is a guy that pretty much, him and Anthony Rizzo, they're not so much of a free swinging batters as Javi Baez. Javi Baez is a free swinging hitter. Now he's electric. You know what I'm saying? Javi Baez, he comes to play. He can steal bases. He plays. He plays the shortstop pretty good. But he's a free swinger. You know what I'm saying? So you want him hitting. You may want Javi Baez hitting in like the fifth hole. You know what I'm saying? Your first two hitters, those guys got to be able to hit for average because we setting the tone. We trying to set the tone for your 3, 4, and 5 hitters. And you probably want Javi Baez, hitting 5. Chris Bryant is somebody you can hit at 3. He can be, you know what I'm saying? He can hit cleanup. He can hit 3. Or you could put Anthony Rizzo at 3 and put Chris Bryant at 4. I put Anthony Rizzo at 3, put Chris Bryant at 4 and put Javi Baez at the 5 hole. But your first two hitters, you have to get some guys up there that can get the ball. You have to have some guys that can take the pitcher into deep counts and can hit for average. Because nowadays they take the starting pitchers out in what, the 6th inning? I mean, I remember looking at baseball and the pitcher pitched the whole game and it was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They at least went 8. These guys go 6. And I'm talking about aces. What? The other day, what? I know it was the Cubs didn't score a lot of runs, so he did take John Lester out because the Cubs didn't score a run at that point. But he took John Lester out in the 6th. But it was a good move because the Cubs were able to still pitch really, really good, and they were able to hold Colorado Rockies to a 1 point deficit until they got their 1 point. So that was a good move. But I remember when pitchers went deep into the game, man, and you brought the closer in, or you may brought, you know what I'm saying, you brought somebody else in, then the setup man, then you brought the closer in 9. So pitchers used to at least go 8 or 7 in the third or something like that, and then you brought the setup man, then you brought the closer in, or they went 8 and you brought the closer in. Now these guys go 6, and they call these guys aces. They go 6 because the analytics say let them pitch 6. Let them pitch 6. So if your arm get used to pitching 6, that's what it's gonna be used to pitching. That's when you're gonna get tired. So anyway, you have to have. Now they say go after Bryce Harper, right? But he's a free swinger. He's just like Javi Baez. So if Bryce Harper come, what you gonna put him at the set? You gonna bat him second? So you got a free swinger at second, and to me, I will say Machado. Machado is probably the quintessential hitter that they need at the top of the order, first or second. Now, I don't know what he hit. What was his average? What was his numbers? Let me look it up. Uh, but either you're gonna put him at the, you know what I'm saying. Either you're gonna put him at the one or the two hole. And now if he hits for a good average, okay, then you know what I'm saying. Put him put him at the lead off. Let him lead off. But let me see, man. Where's Machado at, man? What team is he on? Is he on? Oh, he on the Dodgers. Hold on. I can just go look straight up. Look it straight up, man. But like I said, the Cubs need a good leadoff man, man. They really do. That's what they missing. They don't. To me, in my opinion, they don't need Bryce Harper. If you had everything else, if you had a good leadoff man hitting for average, you had a guy hitting in a two hole that's batting really good, hit for average. If you had that already in place, then I'll say, okay, go get Bryce Harper. But Bryce Harper, in my opinion, he's a free swinger, man. Now he can catch fire, but one thing about those free swingers is they're gonna have slumps, and that was the Cubs' problem this year. They had too many slumps. You don't want the slumps to last that long, man. Where's Machado at, man? I thought he was with the Dodgers. Let me see. Let me see his name up here. There you go. Here it is. Plus, he's a third baseman. That's Brian's best position, but you could put Brian in right field. You can put him in the outfield. Let me see his stats. Let me see his stats real quick, man. Because if he's a guy that can hit for average, then you get him. Let's see slugging percentage. Now he's a career 282 hitter. That's not. I mean, that's not bad. He strikes out an average of. He strikes out at least an average of 70 times a year. It's not bad. To me, he's a two-hole hitter. He's a quintessential two-hole hitter. I don't know how many guys really hit for a good average anymore because this is the era of hitting the ball at the park. Free swinging, man. Go for the fence. And it's been like that for the last what 6 7 years, maybe 10 years. Go for the fence. Forget hitting for average. People don't really hit for average no more, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. Let me see. You had to hit for average, man. If you struck out 100 times back in the day, that was terrible. Now you got guys striking out 200 times, man. Didn't what's his name? Aaron Judd for the Yankees. He struck out like 200 sometimes, almost 300 times one year. Wow, that's terrible, man. You striking out 200 times a year. You better hit 60, 65 home runs. It's just you have to draft. You have to draft guys out of high school that hit for average. Get them in the minors. Put them in your system. That's where you had that hitting coach teaches the same thing that the hitting coach teaches the same philosophy that the head coach teach in the majors. So that way, when they coming up the ranks, and they hit the majors, they already hit. They already know how to hit the opposite field. They already know how to hit in the gap. They already know how to bunt the ball correctly, and they can hit for power. Now I'm not saying they're gonna do all of those great, but you at least have to be able to do all of those things above average. You have to be great, maybe in great in a. You probably have to be you know what I'm saying, be able to hit the ball to the opposite field really good, bunt really good, and above average in power. You still a threat to hit the ball at the you know what I'm saying, out the park. But you cannot be bad or just average at all of those things. You cannot just you just cannot be average at all of those things. You have to be able to hit for average, man. Look, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. This postseason. I want the postseason, man. All these all the guys is hitting. This the postseason. I want the season. Don't want the postseason, people. But anyway, it's hard to see. It's hard to find guys hitting for average in this era. It's like the NBA, how the NBA went to a 3-point lead. It went from the 2-pointer is the most efficient shot on the basketball court, and all of a sudden, this the last what 5 or 6 years, 7 years, 6 7 years, they have made the 3-point shot the most efficient shot. Backwards. You know how backwards that is? That's so bad. Look, the 2-point shot is more efficient than the 3-point shot. The 3-point shot is further away from the basket than, let's say, anything from the free throw line in, or the circle of the free throw line in, free throw, the top of the circle of the free throw on in. Those are the closest shots. So you're gonna try to tell me that the 3-point shot is the most efficient shot? Your analytics. You see the Houston Rockets. They got Darren Morier. I know I'm going on a rant when I know I'm going off the Cubs subject, but this kind of coincide with that. He say that the analytics tell him to put up more 3-point shots. That's how they're gonna beat the Golden State Warriors. Now Mike D'Antoni is a 3-point shooting master. He wants his team to average, to put up 50 to 55 threes a game. And that's going to beat the Golden State Warriors. When the Golden State Warriors hit the 3-point shot at to me, a better clip, especially under pressure, than any team in the NBA. And that's what it comes down to. Not being able to hit 3-point shots in the regular season. Can you hit them in the postseason when the game gets a little bit more physical, a little bit more intense, and can you still have the legs to be able to put up and shoot those many threes and be able to hit a large percentage of them? That's what it comes down to. Golden State does it very well. Like I told everybody, Golden State used the 3-point line as a decoy in most cases. They run little action plays, and you can't even tell what they're doing because you're so focused on them shooting threes. You so focused on Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry putting up for a three that you can't see what's going on behind the 3-point line. But like I said, the Cubs just need to regroup. They need 2 good hitters at the top of that lineup, man. And I don't think Bryce Harper. Hey, look, that's a sexy name. Bryce Harper is a sexy name to go out to get. You can sell more tickets, but how many more tickets you gonna sell? The Cubs already sell out that park anyway. So how many more tickets you gonna sell? Like I said, if you can get 2 good hitters at the top of the lineup, or you already had that in place, then I will go get Bryce Harper. But other than that, why? Now you got 2 free swingers and Bryce Harper and Javi Baez in your lineup, and you're gonna be going through more slumps. But let's see what the Cubs do, man. To me, the Cubs had they salvaged their season somewhat. All the problems they went through. I thought they fought hard down the stretch. They just wasn't good enough. They just wasn't. They just weren't good. They wasn't good enough, or they got tired down the stretch, or something. Mental fatigue. Something happened to where they couldn't win that many games down the stretch. But let me know what y'all think, man. Go Cubs, and we'll see what's gonna happen next year. This is not a see what you're gonna happen next year, as in we always lose. No, that we're gonna see what happens next year, because I expect the Cubs to bounce back next year. I really, and I expect the Cubs to win the World Series next year. I'm out.